Welcome to the Earn More, Stress Less podcast with me, Caro Syson, and my co-host for this season 2, Hayley Hudson. This podcast is for self-employed business owners just like you who really want to grow their business and become successful and profitable and without all the stress and hassle. We want to share over 50 years of our business experience to show you how simple it can be to earn more money and how you can get organised without needing a business degree or any other qualification. We'll be talking about the easy steps that you can put in place right now to start earning more money today and to help you get the business that you deserve and dream of. So without further ado, let's get started. This week's podcast is sponsored by Pocket PA, helping self-employed business owners to get organised, understand their finances and do their accounts all in one place using a powerful online tool. If you're serious about making a profit and having a successful business, then using a simple digital app like Pocket PA is the best way to grow and scale your business. Visit pocketpa.com for more details and start managing your money like a pro today. Hello and welcome to the Earn More, Stress Less podcast with me, Caro Syson, and Hayley Hudson. Hi, Hayley. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Hi.
Good. So this week on the podcast, we want to talk with you about putting in place real practical tips that are going to make a massive difference to minimising your client no-shows and forgotten appointments. Now, this is a huge thing, particularly in service-based industries. There was a whole conversation going on in January. There was a post that went up by a lady, Josie Beale. We'll put a link in the show notes to it. There was Josie Beale did something and also Hannah, and they were talking a lot about how much actual no-shows and forgotten appointments are costing their businesses. And I think it was in January, in case you're listening to this a little bit later. But together, Josie and Hannah were saying that they'd had over £17,000 worth of appointments in cancellations and no-shows. Now, that was just absolutely staggering. And I do some work with Beauty Backed, and they put up a post and got a huge amount of engagement. They were talking about, can you afford to lose £10,000 in revenue this year? And I think it's an invisible amount that people don't actually quantify very much. And that's on average what these lost appointments are costing small business owners. And it might sound like a huge headline amount, and you might shake your head and say, oh, that's absolutely not me. But when you break it down, we're talking about to a couple, 3 or 4 missed appointments each week of around £50 per appointment. That's nearly £8,000 to £10,000 a year. Now, that is a huge amount of money. And Hayley, you're obviously in a service-based industry, hair, beauty, that sort of thing. Is this something that you've had impact your business and your bottom line from time to time?
Yes, we implemented a cancellation fee. Well over a decade ago. We absolutely had to. It was getting ridiculous. We were losing about £1,000 a week at one point between 3 of us, and it was just unsustainable. The business was going to end up closing. So, it just something had to be done. I'm so passionate about this because people, like you say, don't realise the amount that it actually adds up to, and they just think, oh well, it can't be helped, or people have things pop up. But you look at the dentists, they charge. So why shouldn't we? Our time is valuable, and most of us are working mums. We're paying for childcare. If you've paid for childcare, my childcare personally was like £65 a day when my son was in preschool. And, if a client cancelled on me, I still had that cost to find and pay for. It's got to come from somewhere. So why should it come from us?
Yeah. So the first thing that we want to do is to try to be proactive in making sure that clients don't forget and that, minimising the chances of them missing their appointment. So what can our listeners do in order to help their situation? So the first thing that we want to suggest is automating and implementing appointment reminders. You can actually start a level earlier by making sure that when they book the appointment, they have a booking confirmation message, whether that's an email or an SMS, so that you've got that evidence and that there's an audit trail showing that they have been sent in writing their time for their appointment. So there's no ambiguity. The client can look back and see exactly when they're booked in, what the service time is, where they need to be, that sort of thing. But I think the use of automated appointment reminders is massive, and it's really well used in the industry. So if you aren't currently sending out appointment reminders, you are missing a trick. And yes, there's often a cost to it. It's included in a software package, or it can be a standalone service. But the fact that you could be sending an appointment reminder for, between 3 and 7p per message, or even it's included in Pocket PA for email reminders, it can actually save you for example, 50 to 70 pounds if that client doesn't turn up. It's a no-brainer. Would you like to invest and ensure that your client turns up on time by outlaying a very small amount and having it in an automated process? It's not even costing you your time to get that message sent. It really is an absolute no-brainer. And as I say, Pocket PA does this for you. So if you are not tech savvy or you've never used an automated appointment reminder system before, you can go into Pocket PA, set it up. It literally takes 3 to 5 minutes to be able to get going and get your clients sent. And you can choose how far in advance you have them sent. Some people like to have them a couple of days ahead. Some people like to have them sent on the day. So it's completely down to you. You can choose what goes in the message. So it can be super friendly. It doesn't need to be, abrupt and arsey and, don't forget you've got your appointment or anything like that. You can, craft your message so that it's really personalized, and then it can be sent out and scheduled before the appointment to make sure that the client remembers. And I think being personalized, having the opportunity to personalize a reminder, clients love them. And, if they're thinking that an appointment is coming up this week and they haven't had the reminder, I've had instances where they've actually contacted the Pocket PA user to say, oh, I thought I was seeing you this week. And then the therapist or the beautician can say, oh, no, it's actually next week. And they said, oh, thank God, I didn't get my reminder. So I knew there was something up. You can't afford not to be sending these messages, whether it's SMS or emails. So are SMSs or emails something that your business has used, Hayley?
Yeah, we do. We have various different touch points. I think it's really important as well to put a strategy in place so that you've got these reminders going out at different times. So we have an email reminder that goes out a few days before, and then we have a text message that then goes out as well as. So I think our emails go out maybe 5 days before the appointment, and the text message goes out 2 days before the appointment, or 3.
I love that. Staggering. Yeah, you could definitely do that in Pocket PA. You could choose to put your email out a couple of days before, and even put your SMS out on the day of, or 12 hours before, to make sure that the client knows. I love that. What other things do you do in your business?
We take a deposits as well for all of our appointments. So we have a very robust and strict cancellation policy. We take booking fees on every appointment that's booked with us. You can't book in our salon if you don't take one. Because I think it's just starting the relationship on the right foot, really, because, our time is to be respected. And, whilst things do come up, I understand that, people can appeal it. So we have a process as well if something actually genuinely has cropped up, because unfortunately you will get those clients that tell a very similar story to you, maybe like 3 or 4 times. Maybe the same relative has been unwell, perhaps 5 times. So we also keep notes as well in the system. I hope none of our clients are listening, but we do keep notes. We do keep notes on the reasons as well as to why people do cancel, because unfortunately, sometimes you can notice patterns. So obviously, if somebody's seriously ill or something like that, then there are very exceptional circumstances where we would, reimburse that booking fee. But the system does it automatically. And it also takes the onus off you. So you can say, we have a system, I'm sorry, but you've paid the deposit. It's done automatically. And fib, if it's not done automatically, fib and say that it is, because then, especially if you are the business owner, you'll find, if you're a solopreneur, you'll find that your client's looking directly at you going, I know that you can waiver this policy. Or if you've got a team, your team will be going, let me just speak to Hayley and see if there's anything we can do about the cancellation policy. Whereas if you just say, I'm ever so sorry, the system does it automatically. If there is something that has gone wrong, here's the email, appeal it in this way. And then obviously, we can go on the system and try and do something, but there's a bit more of a process to it. And it just buys you a little bit of time for that client to calm down as well. Because obviously, if you are saying you've got to pay for a colour and you're not having that colour, and it's over £100 worth of services or something like that, if you're taking 100% cancellation fee if it's on the day. So for us, we take 100%. If you haven't turned up, it's a percentage if you give us a little bit of notice, but on the same day, if you no show, it's 100%. So, sometimes people can be a little bit upset about it. But that said, don't be afraid to enforce it, but do have a strict policy in place, because that's only fair to your clients.
I think if you've communicated it very transparently and you've got it clearly stated on your website or on your social media, and your client has been advised of it before anything starts to go wrong, I think you've absolutely got a leg to stand on. And I know my daughter is very strict on her policy, and she won't actually allow somebody to rebook in unless they've settled any cancellation fee from the previous appointment, because that minimises, having clients on your books that could potentially take advantage. And no one's suggesting if something very last minute happens and it's an absolute game changer, you can always use your discretion and take a view on it. But I think it's important that you have this framework in place. And we'll talk a little bit more about cancellation policies later in the podcast. But you touched on something there about taking deposits and needing those to confirm, or a prepayment. Those are really important things, because by doing that, your client has already got skin in the game. They've already got some money with you, and they're much more likely to turn up. And in the Pocket PA online booking system, we have a way that people can implement the deposit being taken. They're connected to a payment gateway like Stripe or Square. And so the client, in order to complete and confirm and finish that booking, they have to make a payment. Now, it doesn't need to be the full amount. You can choose a percentage or a fixed amount for that appointment, but they've already made a prepayment before they've even finished the booking process. And I think that that's a really good, responsible way to be managing your business, to secure a booking. And as I say, Pocket PA's got this feature built in, but there are lots of other ways that you can ask clients to, if you're not using a booking software, you can ask them to transfer to your bank account, or when you're making the appointment for the client at the end of the existing appointment and they're rebooking, you can take a deposit at that point if they're paying cash or something like that. I think by having a system like taking a prepayment in an online booking, it takes the blame off of you, doesn't it, Hayley? Is that what you found in your salon?
Yeah, absolutely. It just puts that well, say it's a person, because obviously it's technology, it's not, but it just puts that sort of, takes the human element out of it. I suppose that's what I'm trying to say. Whereas if you've got somebody telling you a complete tale of, why they can't attend it, it can be quite distressing for people, whether that be the stylist themselves, or a front of house, or an apprentice that may have answered the phone and taken that call. Some clients can really put you in a very difficult situation. There can be a lot of emotional blackmail. I'm trying to beat around the bush here a little bit, obviously, because we're on a live podcast, but some people can get really heavy with you, and then it'll be like, oh well, actually I just can't afford it. And it's like, well, you knew that a week ago. You knew that 3 days ago. You didn't have to not turn up on your appointment. Just not being able to afford it isn't really a good enough reason, in my opinion, because you knew that it's not something like you've had a car crash or a tire blowout, or, you're on the way to A&E.
They've not given you the opportunity to reschedule that appointment to find somebody that might be on a wait list or something. And that brings us on to the next thing. If you do have a last minute cancellation, or somebody is able to give you a little bit of notice, it gives you that opportunity to then perhaps post it on your social media. I see a lot of beauticians and therapists put something lastminute.com on their social media saying a cancellation has become available. And on that basis, if you can fill that slot, it means that you can perhaps let that person off the hook that's kindly let you know with very short notice because there has been a family emergency. So that might be a policy that you want to put in place, that you can release and allow them not to have to fulfill that full amount for the cancelled appointment if you're able to replace it and somebody else is able to take that slot. So that might be a little bit of a way that you can create flexibility and just say to the client when they're cancelling last minute, if I can refill and rebook this appointment and somebody takes it, then we'll be able to come to a different arrangement, but otherwise the cancellation fee is still payable. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, absolutely. I know a lot of people who operate like that. I think, we always try and fill those slots, but sometimes it just doesn't happen, does it? But I think it's nice to be able to just add that into the conversation with the client, just to make it look like you're trying everything that you possibly can do to make sure that they don't have a fee, because obviously we don't want them to be charged unnecessarily. We don't want to be sat around, and it does create bad feeling and bad energy sometimes. So, we would much rather fill that gap, or can you send anybody else? Who do you know that needs your haircut in? Send them in.
Yeah. And I think the other, the onus on the therapist or the person delivering the service is for them to be running a diary, which is actually on time. I don't want to overemphasize the importance of being professional. So you need to ensure that you've got adequate time for your client consultations and to deliver the service that you're going to give. Because if you're always back to back and you're not allowing yourself any buffer zones into your daily routine, and you're going to burn out. And secondly, you're going to potentially become a little bit later for each appointment. And by the end of the day, the client is actually going to be kept waiting. And it may be for, quite some time, and they may have another schedule appointment to go on to afterwards. So if they have that happen to them a few times, then they might start turning up late because they're building into their framework and their day that you're going to be running late and that they can get away with it. And then miraculously that day you're on time and the client's sort of hedging that you're going to be 20 minutes late. And then you get this mismatch and this awkwardness potentially. So I think you need to make sure that you're always scheduling your appointment times, you're building in buffers so that if something were to run over, you can still see your next client on time. And I know for my daughter who does lashes, if she has a client that turns up particularly late and she's being expected to do a full set, she can't shoehorn a full set of lashes into only half an appointment time. That's just not possible. So what do you do then? Do you start the appointment, or do you just let the client know that they're only going to have one eye done or half of each eye done? You know, that's not an ideal outcome. So I think you need to have a cutoff point as well. If a client is running late, you know that you've got a time allocated for them to see them in that period. But what happens, do you communicate that it's too late for you to get started to deliver your service in full, or are you expected to rush through the service and do a half-assed job and then, do a service that perhaps isn't up to your usual standard? I think it's important that you consider those different scenarios as well. What are your experiences on that, Hayley?
I think the other thing that they tend to do as well is they spring service changes on you at the last minute as well. So I'm sure beauty's the same, but definitely in hair, you'll have discussed something, you're booked for a certain thing, you might be booked for a maintenance appointment. They turn up and they say, right, I'm thinking of a complete blonde overhaul today, and they've just doubled the length of the service. And it's so important to stay boundaried. And I think the main themes through this podcast is that you've got to have boundaries within there, because clients don't understand. I don't think they do these things on purpose. Genuinely, I really don't think they do. I think, if they're employed, they don't realize that you're not going to get paid if they don't turn up for their appointment. I think the majority of people, we could say, probably don't put two and two together and even consider that. And I think if they come along and go, well, I've seen this picture on Pinterest, it's just a little bit blonder, they don't realize that might be a double process. They might not realize it's an extra hour or whatever. So for me, I always have a policy of you have what you're scheduled in for. So if you're booked in for a half an hour maintenance appointment, whether it be a retouch or something, there's a few little tweaks that I can do within that. That's still a half an hour service, but I can't, like you say, shoehorn an hour service into a half an hour. It's not fair on my other clients. So I'll just say to people, okay, so that's really amazing. What we'll do is we'll schedule that for your next appointment, and just be really matter of fact about it. And they'll be like, oh, okay. And usually they'll just accept it. Whereas I think the people pleasers within ourselves always try and go over and above and over deliver. And which is, that's how we build a clientele, but it's not how we build our clientele by fitting extra services in. Because ultimately you keep one client happy, but you absolutely upset your other client, who's actually probably been the really well-behaved client, who always turns up, who never misses an appointment. And those are the people that you put out. And like you say, they then start turning up late or they go elsewhere. And it's not fair. So it's always just best just to say, no, no, I'm not doing that.
So this brings us perfectly on to these boundaries, because I think it's really, really important that you think very early on about what your no-show policy is going to be. And this is all about having a cancellation policy and covering this off in writing somewhere. So we're going to put a link into the show notes, because Beauty Backed, if you haven't heard of Beauty Backed, beautybacked.com, they are a great advocate and supporter in the beauty space. And they did an article in January 2024 about how to implement a cancellation policy. And so we're going to put a link into their blog. But I think it's about recognizing that your time is so valuable. These last minute cancellations will disrupt your schedule and they will have a financial impact on your business. So it's really vital that you have given this some consideration and you've got this written down somewhere. So the first thing to do is to clearly define your policy. You've got to start by writing it down, be specific about the time frame with which your clients need to notify you if they want to reschedule or cancel the appointment. And it could be 24 or 48 hours. It might be that you've got a client list that can always sort of do short minute, last minute appointments. So you can always fill those, but you need to be clear about whether you've got a 24 or a 48 hour before the scheduled time cancellation policy, and it can also vary between the treatments that you deliver. The second thing is you need to make sure that you've communicated that policy. So make sure that your clients are aware, include it on your website, your social media platforms, or any promotional materials that you do. It's great if you can put a link to it in any booking confirmations or appointment reminders as a sort of belt and braces process as well. And make sure that when you schedule appointments, you inform your clients, particularly the first time that you meet them, just let them know that you've got a policy. And if they need to have a written copy, just make sure that they've been given that. You need to consider exceptions. So as Hayley and I said earlier, if somebody's got a family emergency, but if it's the third time that they've had this family emergency, then you can sort of put a bit of a question mark over it. But so while it's important that you've got a consistent policy, you need to be perhaps a little bit flexible and prepared to consider exceptions for valid reasons. So emergencies, illnesses of themselves or family members of a child. And you need to decide in advance which circumstances merit these exceptions. And you need to make sure that you communicate that to your clients, because this is going to build the relationship between you and your client. And it's going to, you just want a positive, good relationship with your client. So it's important that you've been transparent and upfront right at the get-go. We've talked before about a booking system and having reminders. I think we can't underestimate the importance of investing in a reliable booking system that will allow you to send automated reminders to your clients before their appointments. Hayley suggested a great way that you could perhaps send an email a few days before and then an SMS on the day or the day before. I think that's another really great way, because people receive information and take note in different ways. And I think this is a really good proactive approach, which will serve as a gentle reminder for your cancellation policy and also minimise those chances of last minute forgotten cancelled appointments. I think enforcing this no-show fee is a good idea, particularly if you have clients that do take advantage. And I think it will deter no-shows, last-minute cancellations by implementing this sort of fee. As I say, make sure that you communicate this fee clearly to your clients and be firm in making sure that they pay it. This fee, whatever you want to call it, this charge, actually emphasizes, it reinforces the importance of honoring appointments, clients respecting your time and your business, because you might be a small business, you might be a one-person business, but your time is important, it's precious. As Hayley said earlier, you may well have paid for childcare for that day. Those fees aren't waived just because a client might not turn up for their appointment. And I think offer flexible rescheduling. So make it easier for clients to reschedule their appointments if they do cancel or want to change their appointment within the designated notice period. So if people let you know within 48 hours that they can't make their time, then perhaps give them some other options when they can come. And, flexibility shows understanding, but also it maintains the importance of timely cancellations. And also follow up with your clients. This is something that not everybody chooses to do. They might feel a little bit awkward, but after a cancellation, follow up with your client and discuss the reason behind them cancelling. Perhaps you might gently have to point out that they've actually done it 4 or 5 times and what the actual financial cost might be to you. I know that this is an uncomfortable conversation, but you're a grown-up, you're a business owner. This is your livelihood, and it's not just a hobby for you. This is your business. And I think you do need to address recurring issues or patterns and adjust your policies and services accordingly. So that's kind of an overview of the blog post that they did. So do go to the link in the show notes to have a look if you want to go over this again. I know you said at the beginning, Hayley, you've got a cancellation policy. This is a must-have for you. Is that right?
Yeah, it needs to really outline everything that you've already discussed on there. I think that was a really comprehensive list. If anybody's out there and they're thinking, oh my God, this is so overwhelming, because I meet so many service providers that are just totally overwhelmed with this side of things. I do have a business boundaries bundle that you can download, and you can input your own information. So it is essentially what we use in the salon. It covers everything from if they don't show up, how our deposits work, competition terms and conditions, if you run any of those, safe colouring policies. If you have somebody who changes their services on the day, what do you do? What if they downgrade it? What if they decide they don't want to colour and they're booked in for a colouring cut? So in our salon, you're still charged for the original service. So we have policies that cover all of this. So if you're struggling to create your own, then by all means go over there and take a look and see if they'll help you.
Great. And also, I think one of the other key things to mention, you are a small business, and guess what? It is your business. You get to decide who you work with. It's your business, so you choose your clients. And I think, as with anything, there is this 80-20 rule where it's just 20% of your clients which will cause you 80% of your headaches. So you might need to do a bit of client detoxing from time to time and have a look at your client list and look at the clients which are costing you money, which are causing you, aggravation and stress and, taking up too much headspace, and you're anxious to see. And you don't need to carry on seeing those clients. There are diplomatic ways for you to be able to ditch them. You don't need to necessarily be rude around it, but you need to be mindful of the fact that it is your business. You get to choose your clients just as they get to choose who they come to see. Have you got any tips on that, Hayley? Because that can be a little bit awkward for people to ditch clients.
You can spot these people as well in the consultation. Don't, or even sometimes from the first point of contact on the phone, don't be afraid to go with your gut. If you're getting that gut feeling that they are going to be a complete pain in the ass, chances are they're probably going to be. And also you get certain clients where you just know that it doesn't matter what you do, they are just not going to be happy with anything that you deliver for them. So in my experience, I have actually, when I was more customer facing, I've had clients that have come in for consultations, and it's been totally clear that even though I'm an amazing stylist, they are just not going to like what anybody does. They're a complete salon hopper. They haven't got a good thing to say about anybody. It's always the stylist's fault. It's nothing to do with anything that they've done, or the fact that they don't actually communicate what they want effectively, or they've got completely unrealistic expectations. Like they come in wanting white hair and they've got jet black hair. It's very unlikely that's going to happen, if not impossible, in one sitting. So I have actually said, to clients before, I really, I'm ever so sorry, I understand what you're wanting, and on this occasion I just don't think that I'm able to deliver that for you. I really think that you be better off to find a stylist that specializes in that particular area. And some people have approached me and said, but you're minimizing your own skills. I'm like, yeah, but it's better for me to turn around and take it on me and say, I'm not confident that I'm going to meet your expectations. And usually you'll find there'll be an energy shift. Actually, they'll go from going, well, can you do this? Can you deliver this? To, oh, no, I do want you to do it. And I'll be like, oh, no, well, I'm just not confident that you're going to get the best results. I just think it's, I wouldn't want to disappoint you. I wouldn't want to let you down. So, there's some other great stylists around here. And, I really hope that you'll get what you're looking for, and just leave it at that. And they're flabbergasted usually. But, it's fine. Just walk away from the situation. And if you are in a situation where you're feeling like, well, I wish I could do that, but I can't afford to, Hayley, then we need to do a little bit of work on your business. Nobody out there should be in a position where you have to say yes to these type of people, because unfortunately there are clients that go around bullying professionals into submission.
Those clients leave clues, don't they?
They do,
because I think that when they first see you on the consultation and they let slip that they've seen 4 nail techs and nobody was very good and blah blah blah, and you just think, oh my goodness, I'm already being set up for a disaster. And they've, as you say, they've hopped from service provider to service provider. So I think that is kind of an orange, if not red flag, waving very loudly in front of your face.
Absolutely. And you do have to act on it. Protect yourself. Just walk away. Stop people pleasing. The road is paved to hell through people pleasing. I promise you. Always have integrity, and it will give you such a headache. Just go with your gut. Trust it. We've all been there.
Yeah, I agree. So I hope there have been some gems in there for you to be able to help with your cancellation policy, to help with your no-shows and your forgotten appointments, and for dealing with those clients who are and potentially could be costing you an awful lot of money, not just per week, per month, but per year. So have a good think about it. And Hayley and I will be here again next week to join you for the Earn More Stress Less podcast. Have a wonderful week, whatever it is you're doing, and we will catch up with you again very soon. Thank you so much for listening today to the Earn More Stress Less podcast with me, Caro Sison, and my co-host Hayley Hudson. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, then do hit subscribe so we can catch up again soon. And please kindly leave a review if you've got a moment, and share with anyone else that you think this podcast could help on their self-employed journey. If you're ready to make bigger breakthroughs in your business life and want to get way more organised and understand your finances the really simple way, then start your very own 14-day free trial today using the super powerful software tool Pocket PA that I made for my own son and daughter. Go to pocketpa.com/podcast and let's get you on the way to earning more money and stressing much less. Have a great week, whatever you're doing.